President Biden and former President Trump both cruised to victory in Michigan's presidential primaries, but that doesn't mean that either of them has a clear or easy path to winning this swing state in November.
That's right. Biden's win was coupled with several uncommitted votes over his stance on the Israel-Hamas war. Nikki Haley's vote total actually causes some concern for Trump's popularity with moderates.
Joining us tonight to break down these results are Democratic consultant Beverly Watts, as well as Republican consultant Jason Cabel Roe. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Beverly, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on these results that we're seeing?
Yesterday was eye-opening. I think both candidates have to be concerned. It signals that they have a lot of work to do for the general election. Really, be honest, with the uncommitted votes that Biden, received and how it was cast yesterday, that's alarming. He needs to continue to do everything he can in his administration to end this war. It's about human lives on both sides. However, you're talking about the election for President Biden. 13% that was uncommitted yesterday. In order to halt his election and halt his from taking over Michigan, it'd have to be between 20 to 30%. If you recall, when President Obama ran years ago, he had double that number uncommitted, and he still won Michigan. But it is a cause for concern. They're going to have to work on both sides.
All right, and Jason, as expected, former President Trump took the Republican side of things quite easily, but 26% of those voters did choose Nikki Haley. So what are your takeaways from that?
Well, I think for both parties, people that are maybe not completely satisfied with the nominees, and as we know from national polling and polling within the state, that no one's really satisfied with the two choices that we have, it's an opportunity to express that dissatisfaction in a way that, frankly, is non-binding. You can, if you don't like Trump, vote for Nikki Haley in the primary and, likely come home in the general. And, listen, he still got 70% of the vote. So, that is certainly not an underperformance. I'll take 70% every time. I did expect the protest vote for Joe Biden to be a little bit higher than it was, but you can't ignore 100,000 voters in a state that both the 16 and 20 elections were won by Trump in 16 and Biden in 20 by less than a percentage point. Every vote matters. But I also think that the long-term problems for Democrats are a little more complicated than the Republican problems. I think Republican voters will probably come home to Donald Trump. And I think it's not just what's going on in Gaza and the Middle Eastern question as it relates to the Democratic coalition, but in polling within the state, multiple polls show that Joe Biden is underperforming with black voters, with young voters, and then you throw in Arab and Muslim voters who are dissatisfied. When you have a state that has been so narrowly decided in two elections, and you've got now 4 or 5 polls that show Trump leading in Michigan, I think Joe Biden's got a lot more work to do to consolidate his coalition than Donald Trump does to consolidate his.
Beverly, do you agree with that? Do you think that Joe Biden's going to have more of an issue because of those people who aren't satisfied for different reasons? Could that put a dent on his win should he go up against Donald Trump?
No, I don't think so. I think what Biden has under his realm, as you can say, we have a popular governor who's Democrat. You have the Democrats here who are leading in charge of Michigan. You have the UAW who's endorsed Biden, who has a very popular, president right now, coming off a great negotiation of his contract from last year. Also, what you have is, he want to say with the black vote underperformance, well, the former president's performing at all. He continues with his rhetoric, and I've talked to a lot of the black voters in the last month. They're really, really offended by the remarks he's making. Look in the dark, I can see the blacks. I'm creating gym shoes for my black vote. Very insulting to the black community. You can definitely be aware that the black community and the black vote will turn out in November.
Is there concern about turnout? I mean, obviously, general election turnout is always much higher than in a primary election. Jason, is there concern that maybe some of those moderate voters on the right, or even some of those uncommitted voters, may just sit the election out rather than vote third party or cross party lines?
I mean, listen, that's always a concern, but I think we're way too far out from the November election to know. There's a lot of shoes that are going to drop. There's a lot of things that could happen, whether it's domestically or internationally, that can impact how people behave when the time comes. But the reality is, will largely have a binary choice. Do you want Joe Biden's America or Donald Trump's America? And, I think, listen, Donald Trump brings a lot of chaos and a lot of behavioral things that nobody wants. But I think when you look at the 4 years of his administration and the 3+ years of Joe Biden's administration so far, I think for most people, they think the cost of living, quality of life, the normalcy in our lives, not necessarily in government, but in our lives was probably better. And, for whatever Trump's shortcomings and how he executes foreign policy, we were not involved in any foreign wars. And now we find ourselves involved in two, and we're shipping billions of dollars to other countries to fund their wars. So I think the contrast offers some opportunities. Turnout, could affect both of them, and it could affect neither of them. Turnout has been increasingly going up, and it's a presidential year, so I don't think there's anyone that's going to sit this one out.
All right. Well, time will tell. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.